Hey, Thunderpoke is here. So, you saw many pirates using Conqueror's Haki, but not Marines. Why is that? Well, let's talk about it. So, Conqueror's Haki is an incredible and rare ability in One Piece. This is a special type of Haki that not everyone in the world is born with. While the other two types of Haki can be found within every single living creature, the same cannot be said for Conqueror's Haki. This type of Haki is special and one needs to be lucky enough to be blessed with this ability at birth. Those who are blessed with this power are ones with the Conqueror's spirit within them. This power has been seen being used in One Piece to devastating effect on many occasions, and this is true now more so than ever before, since the true power of this technique has been fully revealed to the fans. While quite a lot of pirates wield this incredible power, it appears to be quite rare among the Marines for some reason, and while it might be inexplicable on the surface, there might be a few explanations for this. The first thing that you need to keep in mind is that Conqueror's Haki, by definition, is a very rare ability. This power isn't something that can be found within just anyone. It is believed that only 1 in a million people hold Conqueror's Haki in the world of One Piece, and that is quite rare. Unlike the actual world, the world of One Piece likely doesn't have billions and billions of people in it. Essentially, it means that only a handful of people will have access to Conqueror's Haki, to begin with. From those people, the Marines having this ability would then be even rarer, and that is a significant reason as to why not many Marines have this power. However, then, one could argue that not many pirates should have Conqueror's Haki either. However, on the pirate side, quite a lot of them seem to have this ability. In fact, even some pirates who are, in the grand scheme of things, insignificant in One Piece, such as Chinjao, have the ability to use Conqueror's Haki, but the likes of the Marines admirals, who are a lot more important to the plot and are very significant enemies, do not possess this power. This might be surprising to the fans, however, there can be an explanation for this as well, which will be tackled later as the power is discussed more in depth. Within the Marines, Conqueror's Haki is very rare, however, it certainly is not non-existent. At one point in the story, fans believed that the Marines would not have Conqueror's Haki at all. This was proven wrong at first by the Vivre cards, which confirmed Sengoku to be a user of Conqueror's Haki. Of course, the Vivre cards themselves are not the most accurate source of information and should always be taken with a grain of salt. However, sometimes, they certainly add an interesting bit of information to the plot, and, here, they confirmed Sengoku to be a user of Conqueror's Haki. This makes him the very first Marine to be confirmed to be a user of all 3 Haki types, as opposed to the pirates, who had quite a few by this point of the story already. Things change even further when, in the final saga of One Piece, Garp launched an assault on the pirate island, Hashinosu. On this dangerous island, Garp launched an attack to save his very own protege, Kobe. He wanted to rescue him from the clutches of the Blackbeard pirates, and for this reason, he led a raid on the pirate island, not fearing for his own life. Garp launched an offensive against them and, there, utilized the power of Conqueror's Haki. Of course, a legend such as Garp would have this power, and this did not come as a surprise to many fans. However, there was a bit of doubt among the fans as to whether the Marines would even have Conqueror's Haki in the manga or not. With Garp utilizing this ability at a very high level, it has not been confirmed that the Marines do, in fact, have the power to utilize Conqueror's Haki. That said, Conqueror's Haki in the Marines is still very, very rare. Out of hundreds of thousands of soldiers, only 2 have been confirmed to be users of this ability. The reason as to why the Marines don't often have Conqueror's Haki is not explained in the story. However, there are many clues within the story that will help fans deduce why that is the case. First and foremost, the Marines are a very restrictive organization. Within this organization, not many people can express themselves or their ambitions. No matter how high a person goes, they're always working under someone, and, as that happens, their conqueror spirit is likely not allowed to be brought out. Conversely, one can argue that those who would have a conqueror's spirit would avoid the Navy anyway. Only a select few people within the Marines have the opportunity to stand at the top, and only those have access to Conqueror's Haki. This is well reflected in the examples of Sengoku and Garp. For instance, Sengoku became the fleet admiral of the Marines and, as a result, he was at the helm of things over everyone else and, in a way, conquered the Navy. Because of that, Sengoku was able to manifest his Conqueror's Haki. Of course, that is taking into consideration the fact that Sengoku was born with this ability as well. Regardless, Sengoku's Haki bloomed and he became one of the strongest characters to have lived in the One Piece world. In the case of Garp, him being a vice admiral doesn't change the fact that he is on the same level as the fleet admiral. However, it isn't strength that specifically gave him this Haki, it is his level of freedom. Garp has always had control over his life. God is his own ruler and didn't work for anyone. His level of freedom was absolutely boundless, and because of that, he had Conqueror's Haki. The same cannot be said for other members of the Marines in One Piece. For instance, Kuzan, despite being an underling of Garp, was always a slave of the system. He always used to follow orders, and even though he enacted his own justice at times, at the end of the day, he was there to do his job, and he was always at the beck and call of the celestial dragons. The same can be said for Kizaru, who confirmed himself to be a corporate slave as well. A character such as him would, of course, not have Conqueror's Haki because he does not have the spirit of a conqueror, to begin with. Akainu is a different example. While he has not been confirmed as a user of Conqueror's Haki just yet, he might actually have this power. This is simply down to the fact that Akainu is the fleet admiral of the Marines, which is the same position that Sengoku held. At the same time, he has the ambition to go after the Yonko and assert dominance as the leader of the Navy. Of course, he does not have this power yet, however, fans should keep their eyes peeled on this character in the future. Other than Sakazuki, however, the vast majority of the Marines are simply slaves of the system, and, because of that, they lose their sense of freedom, and it would be thematically incorrect for them to have this power, which also reaffirms why, in the grand scheme of things, the Yonko are always stronger than the admirals. Well, that's it for today. Now before leaving this video, please make sure to subscribe Thunder Poke, thank you.